Hey RV family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, the review guy, reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one I'm going to be covering the new Ulver record entitled Flowers of Evil. Fronted by Kristoffer Rygg, who has been a part of many different projects, most notably Ulver, Arcturus, Borknagar. One thing you can say about Ulver is they've had a very weird artistic progression throughout their entire career. In the briefest sense, with the most briefest of explanations if you are unfamiliar with this band, Ulver began as a black metal band with quite a few folk metal influences that slowly began to take from the well of various shades of electronic music. Even in the band's early career, when the black metal was more so at the forefront, the melancholic songwriting stylings and the folk metal influences that really bled through in the atmosphere was still something that took off the edge of the heaviness of black metal and the rawness of black metal. In the 2010s for Ulver, consistently, all of their albums have been bursting with electronics, just panoramic tendrils ripping through the ground and taking hints from trip hop and ambient music, synthwave, new wave. This record follows their critically acclaimed album, The Assassination of Julius Caesar, which I didn't enjoy simply for how overly lavish it felt. Look, I'm all for glitzy electronic music, but here it just felt so corny and cheesy. Combine that with the overly dramatic lyrics, the overly theatrical vocals, and it was just way too saccharine for me. In contrast though, Flowers of Evil on the other hand is a grand surprise for me personally. Holy shit. Ulver has not sounded this good in a while. This band has never particularly been my cup of tea, but they are exuding so much of what I enjoy on this record here. I think that as an aesthetic, Ulver is sounding like a newfound band that is really coming into their own and fleshing out their sound a bit more and understanding what they do right and what they do wrong. There are passages here in the guitar licks that sound straight out of Tears for Fears, Pet Shop Boys, Duran Duran, with the same dark wave influences as what you get from a Soft Cell and some of the very poetic lyricism of one of my favorite electronic bands, Depeche Mode. Plenty of references to sci-fi culture and religious culture. Some of the lyrics here are fantastic. Do not think I didn't catch that Blade Runner reference. Like, I want to read a little bit of an excerpt for one of my favorite tracks on this record, Machine Guns and Peacock Feathers. On the eve of the ninth moon, the world's on fire. Michael and his angels versus the dragon. Icarus is falling, tempting fate. Nothing to hold on to against the dying light. Just stuff like that literally makes me go like, this is what music! This record has quite the interesting arc. It is clear as day that this record in particular is very heavily inspired by the 80s new wave and synth pop scenes. Not to mention, I would also say a bit of art pop. There are some electronic bits that remind me of something that Kate Bush would have done. Some of these courses situate themselves in the pantheon of Ulver's best work, and I would say the same could be said about the tracks themselves. I mean, you could tell me this record is straight out of like 1987 production-wise, and I'd believe you. Going back to Machine Guns and Peacock Feathers, it's a great example of what I'm saying here. The way the female vocals swap back and forth near the end of the track is a technique that was employed a lot by synthwave and new wave bands in the 80s. And notice how lively but simple the instrumental on this track is. Thumping, rolling percussion, such a catchy guitar tone. It's almost minimalistic at times, but there's enough detail to really make it memorable. The production doesn't waver from being clean and slick as it's been in the past, but the very vintage sheen that is put over this record more so than ever before does it much more favors than just how larger than life their past few records have felt. The simpler, stripped back approach just works better for this band. Hour of the Wolf is another track that I want to highlight, another big standout for me. The mix on this track is gorgeous. It's tense, just frigid, the tending to the vocals, the little details such as the broken glass effect, the little progressions that litter themselves throughout this entire track. The swirling atmosphere passing from ear to ear. This record, I would say, is a time machine more than any other Ulver record up until this point. It's not pretentious one bit. It embodies the natural fluid spirit of dark wave and new wave from the 80s. Now, I will say, there is a great deal of musical worship on this record, that's a given. The more knowledge of the scenes you know, the less innovative this record might seem and the less original this record might seem, but I don't think it's so much that as it is just how well they do it. And not to mention, like I said, the lyrics are just so beautifully poetic. They blur the lines of poeticism and something you could find in literature with careful detail to being impactful and relatable, just epic. Up until this point, I've never really been able to say that I adore an Ulver record, but damn if this record ain't making me a believer. Generally, the first half of this record is so much stronger than the last. The songwriting is still there. I would just say that there are certain moments near the latter half of this record that don't necessarily have as much punch and grit as the first half. Like the songwriting chemistry wasn't as strong, but it's still very good in its own right. But for me personally, I'm going to be giving this album a 7.5 out of 10. And that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Ulver record, Flowers of Evil? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about this record. I would love to discuss it with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.